Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe.
Hello, everybody out there in podcast land, as I could say. This is Eddie, and today we are starting a new. Actually, we started last week, but this is going to be our second half-hour episode, which is going to air every week on Wednesday, and it will actually go live at 3:30 a.m. And when I mean Wednesday, actually Thursday morning, Wednesday midnight into Thursday morning. What I want to bring to your attention today is that I recently had gone to Florida a couple of weeks ago, and I acquired what probably is the most advanced, not most advanced, it's the most exciting thing that House of the Unusual has ever come across. We came across the original, I believe, Betz ball. Now, if you guys know the story of the Betz ball, it happened back in 1974. I'm going to read an insert here that I have that explains the story a little better. Once upon a time in 1974, in a quiet corner of Florida, the Betz family stumbled upon a mysterious steel sphere that would become the stuff of legends. They were exploring their sprawling property near Fort George Island, a remote and serene location, when they noticed something peculiar sticking out of the ground. As they approached, their curiosity grew. Half buried in the dirt was a shiny metal sphere about the size of a basketball. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The Betz family, consisting of parents Antonie and Jerry, along with their son Terry and his wife, could not fathom where this strange object had come from. Terry, an engineer, examined the sphere and noted that it was perfectly balanced and emitted an eerie high-pitched sound when tapped. It was as if the sphere had its own unique frequency. The family decided to name it the Betz Ball. News of the Betz Ball discovery quickly spread, attracting the attention of scientists, UFO enthusiasts, and the media. Speculation ran wild, with theories ranging from extraterrestrial origins to secret government experiments. The Betz family became reluctant celebrities, thrusted into the spotlight by the enigmatic sphere they had uncovered. As the world watched, researchers conducted a battery of tests on the Betz ball. They discovered that it seemed to react to certain frequencies of sound, rolling on its own when exposed to them. Some even claimed that it emitted radio signals. However, no definitive answers could be found regarding its origins or purpose. The Betz ball mystery deepened when the family began to experience strange phenomena in their house. In their home, unexplained voices, footsteps were heard, and objects moved on their own. Some believed that the sphere had brought a paranormal presence into their lives. Over time, interest in the Betz ball waned, and it gradually faded from the public eye. The family, exhausted by the constant attention and strange occurrences, decided to keep the sphere hidden away, hoping to live a more normal life. The Betz ball remained an unsolved enigma, a relic from the past that continues to spark the imagination of those who hear its story to this day. It is a reminder that there are mysteries in this world that may never be fully understood, and that some secrets are best left buried in the sands of time. Now, about 6 weeks ago, I went to Florida and I was visiting St. Augustine with my brother. I met there with a magician friend of mine who actually, between him and another magician, they do shows every half hour on the hour, and they operate 7 days a week, like from I think 9 a.m. to like 8:30 p.m. is the last show. Apparently, somebody had come to my friend the magician there and had bought his a guy by the name of Victor had bought him what he believed could be the Betz ball. Victor stated that he found it in a barn in Orlando, where he was from, and gave it to the magician because he had been there and he had been to his magic show several times in the past and figured he would know what this ball was. The magician immediately called me and asked me if because I happened to be in the vicinity, and he said, "I got something really interesting to give you, Eddie, or to show you and see if you might be interested in it." When I went to meet up with him, we came across and he told me what it was. And I said, oh my God, could this be the original Betz? Well, this would be fascinating. So we got a hold of Dr. James Combos, a PhD in the field. And he said he actually did a write-up for the House of the Unusual so that I can actually take the ball along conventions and display it on the internet and so forth. He wrote the following insert. He put, in a mind-boggling turn of events, a magician from St. Augustine, Florida, unexpectedly became entangled in the ongoing mystery of the Betz sphere. It all began when a man named Victor, who had attended one of the magician's show, approached him with a most peculiar find, a metallic sphere. Victor claimed to have unearthed this enigmatic sphere from a concealed spot within a barn. What piqued Victor's interest was the uncanny resemblance of this sphere to the fabled Betz ball, prompting him to wonder if it might be the same object rumored to have been stolen or swapped by a scientist. The original Betz sphere had achieved a notoriety for its inexplicable movements. However, when the Betz family eventually recovered their sphere, it inexplicably ceased exhibiting any of its previous reported peculiar behaviors. This abrupt shift only deepened the enigma surrounding the globe, casting doubt on its true essence and origins. Despite the Betz family's steadfast refusal to permit invasive examinations of their sphere, the sphere discovered by Victor seemed to have undergone some form of alteration, suggesting that it had been subjected to a mysterious operation. This alteration seemed to guarantee that the riddle of the Betz sphere would forever remain unsolved and shrouded in secrecy. As for the sphere found in the Orlando farmhouse, its identity remains unconfirmed. Is it indeed the legendary Betz mystery sphere, or might it be an eerie look-alike? With whispers and conjectures continuing to swirl, the truth behind this perplexing object persists as an irresistible, tantalizing puzzle, inviting endless fascinations and speculation. Now, I had the Mr. Campos write this for me because I'm going to use it in display when I show the ball around. Now, I did take the ball and I did one or two tests. When you do roll it away, it does come back to you. It does seem that at one time it looks like it might have been cut apart because I think this what looks like welding has been done around the sphere. I weighed it. It weighs a little bit under 22 pounds, but they never really gave the exact weight of the original. So I believe some places say 21 pounds. Some say this one's about 21 and a quarter pounds, give or take a few. The other thing I wanted to say about the sphere is that I'm going to take it to get it tested for like magnetic, because I think the original one's supposed to have like magnetic field and stuff like that. And I'm going to be posting all my findings on YouTube one by one. So I'm going to be doing videos in the next couple of weeks, doing the, like I said, I don't know exactly if I'm going to do it all in one shot, that I'm going to have somebody who's a professional test it for me. But if it is the real sphere or not, it does look alike, and it does have this little white triangular thing on the top, which I don't really know what it is, but it's there. The sphere is very heavy. It's about the size of a bowling ball. I would say 8 inches in diameter, 8 or 10 inches. I think it's 10 inches. I'm sorry. But overall, it's an exciting thing that I have acquired because I will put it on YouTube. I will put it in a couple of conventions, and I'm sure that a lot of people out there are going to be interested in this because I know not too long ago, a few months ago, it appeared in Ancient Aliens in the History Channel. It is a fascinating ball, and I'm glad to have, because House of the Unusual always acquires mysterious stuffs, and that's why my company is different. Now, I do specialize in comic book novelties, and with the help of Chuck Caputo and Joe, I have also been adding a lot of magic to my channel, and I also put on an Etsy shop all the stuff that me and Chuck have together done. Magic, there's a magic set there. I think there's only 1 or 2 pieces left of that for anybody out there who's interested, you should go ahead and jump on it because once they're sold out, I'm not making any more, that's for sure. And I did have other things there that apparently have all sold out. I had one was called A Haunting in a Box, which I had two, and that's gone. The last one was sold to some guy over in Britain. But guys, I wanted to tell you about the Betz ball because the Betz ball is fascinating, and it's something we have acquired. So if you watch YouTube the next day or so, I'm going to post a video of the ball, and I'm going to be giving a quick explanation about it. And of course, I'll probably read the same story I just read to you guys now. I also will tell you now that the second part of this episode, Chuck is every week is putting out different stories from things of the past, things that are horror, Halloween related, spooky, things that are up his alley. As all you know, we call him the horror magician, and he has become part of House of the Unusual. And I'm, very proud to have him as a friend, and I'm happy overall with what he's been doing for me. He's been more than, between him and his wife, it's been a great tool for the House of the Unusual. Joe Pavlansky has not been on for a couple of weeks now due to his job schedule, but he's going to be coming on soon again. And he's also part of House of the Unusual. In fact, we could not have started this if it wasn't for Joe and me, who originally started the show. And then, of course, we added Chuck and his wife later. And we've had several guests. And we were supposed to have from Penn and Teller. I'm waiting to hear from him. He wants to do a 15-minute live Zoom call. So that would be fabulous. The moment I get him, I think that would really help my channel to really go to the next level. But having said that, guys, stay tuned now as Chuck will be more than happy to let you guys hear the most scary or awesome story coming forth. And so tune in now. All right, Chuck, go ahead with it, buddy.
Okay, Carl von Cosel, also known as Carl Tanzler. This is a macabre story. Some say a love story. I will let you decide. Brace yourselves, folks. This is a creepy one. Carl von Cosel was born in Germany in 1877. His German birth certificate states him as Carl Tanzler. On his U.S. citizenship papers, he is listed as Carl von Cosel. So from this point on, we will refer to him as Carl or von Cosel. Von Cosel immigrated to the United States from Germany in 1926, settling in Zephyr Hills, Florida. Later, he was joined by his wife and two daughters. Carl obtained a job as a radiology technician at the U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West, Florida, under the name Carl von Cosel. At that time, you have to remember, tuberculosis was a terrible disease, and it was rampant, and there was basically no cure for this. And this is what von Cosel specialized in. The date of April 22nd, 1930, would change Carl's life forever. Von Cosel met a young patient by the name of Elena Hoyos, a local Cuban-American woman, about 21 years old. Elena's mother brought her in for an examination of possible TB. And this was at the clinic, of course, where Carl worked. Carl immediately was infatuated with young Elena. Let me tell you a little bit about Elena's family. Her father was a local cigar maker. Now you have to remember, Cuba is not very far from Key West at all. So he would actually roll the actual Cuban cigars. Her mother was a homemaker. Elena had two sisters, one of which would eventually succumb to this disease as well. Elena was eventually diagnosed with TB. Von Cosel was what one would call a self-professed doctor and offered to treat her with many medicines, x-rays, and electrical devices, which he brought to her house. And of course, her parents were very excited about this, and they were very thankful. It was apparent almost immediately that Carl had a huge crush on Elena, often showering her with gifts, jewelry, and clothing. Elena accepted the gifts willingly and unfortunately did not have the same feelings toward Carl. And I read in one of the books that she would actually laugh behind his back when she accepted these things. So that right there was probably a big mistake. Von Cosel tried his best to keep Elena alive, but she succumbed to tuberculosis on October 25th, 1931. Carl paid for Elena's funeral and mausoleum expenses out of his own pocket, with her parents' permission, of course. She was laid to rest in Key West Cemetery. Carl visited almost daily, and almost every night he would sing to her, he would serenade her, and he claimed later on that she asked him to get her out of the grave. So here's where it gets kind of weird. On an evening in April 1933, Carl removed her body from the mausoleum, secretly carting her on a toy wagon to his home. And here's where it even gets really stranger. Carl stated later that maggots were on her face and dark fluids were leaking from her body. After placing her in his house, he used whiskey to cleanse his body and hands because the smell was terrible. So he did set forth to remove the maggots with surgical precision. And get braced, folks, because it gets worse. Carl attached her bones with piano wire and pushed glass eyes into her sockets, which once was her own eyes. He melted wax on her face and stuffed rags in her abdominal cavity. Now, the rags were obviously put there to fill up the space because she was sunk in. He dressed her in stockings, jewelry, and gloves. Now, I saw a documentary about this about 25 years ago. That's how I learned about this. And it was on the television, and they showed pictures of Elena, which can be still seen online. And let me tell you, this shook me up pretty bad. We were going on vacation, I think, to Ocean City the next day, and I couldn't sleep. I was very tired. I mean, I could not believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And these pictures are still available online. So Carl slept with the corpse next to him in his bed for approximately 7 years. And during this time, there was a few things that happened down in Key West, and Carl survived. One of them was the Labor Day hurricane. Now, if you search this, it was in 1935. And there was a lot of veterans, World War I veterans, that actually died in this. It was the worst hurricane in history down there until I think 1988. One of the other hurricanes surpassed it. But anyway, there was a lot of work relief programs going on there, and the veterans were caught in the middle of this. So there was hundreds of veterans that were killed. And if I remember correctly, there was even a train that the government had put together to come in to actually save the people, but it got blown off track. So it was a mess. The train was blown off the track. The veterans, quite a few of them were killed. But anyway, getting back to the story, I guess the thing I'm trying to say is, how did Carl survive this? I mean, he lived in literally a shack, and at that time he had Elena's body next to him in his bed. But anyway, in 1940, Elena's sister heard rumors of Carl's bad deed. Neighbors would actually see him dancing with Elena in an open window in his home. The sister notified the authorities. Carl was arrested and found competent to stand trial on charges of wantonly and maliciously stealing a body and abusing a corpse. Now, here's where it gets weird again. The public actually had sympathy on Carl. It's hard to believe, but they had sympathy on him, and they regarded this as a strange love story. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, and they had sympathy. If you follow the story, you'll see what I'm talking about. The case was eventually dropped, and he was released due to the statute of limitations. So in those 7 years, I guess, the limitations did not apply anymore. All right, here's even a weirder twist. Elena's body was put on public display after she was rescued at Dean Lopez Funeral Home. On this documentary I saw, they actually talked to the elderly people at that time. I guess this is back in maybe 1990, 97, 96. And they were telling how they went on a school field trip to actually see Elena laid out. And that's where I seen the pictures of her. I mean, wow, she did not even look, I mean, she looked like a mannequin. There was wax that he poured on her face to make her cheeks have some color to it. And so these kids would actually go on a field trip, and they talked, and they had talked about this. There was over 7,000 viewers. I mean, she was like a really popular attraction at that time. And I can't even imagine nowadays, schools taking a trip to what many years ago we used to go to the the different places, like the not the mortuary, but the place where they hold them down at the coroner's office. I think my parents told me about that as a field trip they took them to that such of a place, and I can't imagine something going on like that nowadays. But anyway, her body was returned to the Key West Cemetery in an undisclosed grave. Now here's an interesting note. Shortly after this, when von Cosel was exonerated, a bomb went off in the original mausoleum. And it was a timing device, almost like a wind-up alarm clock. And it exploded and blew part of the mausoleum apart. And of course, Carl von Cosel was suspected of this, but there was no proof of this. I mean, you have to remember, Carl von Cosel was a very intelligent man. He knew a lot of things. He was an inventor as well. He wrote an autobiography that appeared in Pulp Fiction Fantastic Adventures. Carl was supported in later years by his wife, Doris. The man obviously had some serious mental problems, and I guess he never got treated properly for it. He died at age 75 and was found on the floor of his home 3 weeks later. Now, there is a legend to this whole story. There's a rumor, a legend, that Carl had switched bodies before the authorities arrived, and he actually had Elena's body until the end. Whether this is true, I have no idea. There would be no way that I would even attempt to figure this out. In the museum that I had visited, which I told you about on the last podcast, at the Fort East Matello Museum in Key West, not far from Robert the Doll, you will see Elena's part of her original tombstone and the entrance plate of her mausoleum. So it is really cool. If you have a chance to visit this museum, I highly recommend it. So there you have it, folks. One of the strangest macabre stories around. If you're ever in Key West, like I mentioned before, visit the ghost tour. Take the ghost tour. It takes you all through Key West. There's a lot of history in there. And Carl von Cosel was one of the top stories, along with Robert the Doll. There's several books available about Carl von Cosel. One is The Lost Diary of Count von Cosel, The Secret of Elena's Tomb, Von Cosel, A True Story, and here's one of my favorites, Undying Love. This is the one I would really recommend getting. I've read most of them, not all of them, but this one is really good. He was featured on several TV shows. One was American Hauntings. It was titled Strange Love. And I've seen him on different subjects as well, different TV shows throughout the years. Like I said, I saw this about 25 years ago. I don't remember where, but this was startling. I mean, this was very upsetting to me, actually. So there you have it, folks. One of the strangest stories around. Google it, check it out, look on the internet for these books. I think you'll be surprised. All right, until next time, folks.